So
Awesome.
you see
Well,
that.
thank you so much for being willing to do a virtual job shadow
Oh yeah, definitely.
on this. And yeah, thanks for your time and sharing the knowledge and experience you have, because
You
I know
bet.
the students and the Private Industry Council really appreciate it a lot.
Oh, hey, happy to help. Always good stuff.
Thank you. So I'll start out by asking you some questions for
Hmm.
okay, all right. So on the personal questions about your career, what
Hmm.
initially interested you about this career?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think what really drew me in was the amount of creativity you have in it. In that, especially here, not only are you going out and filming the video, so you're trying to get creative shots and trying to tell a story in a creative way, but then you bring it back into the edit suite, which is where I'm at now. I'm in the comfort of my edit booth, so social distancing before it was cool, and and then I get to piece together the footage I've captured in the field and make a creative story that people can relate to and enjoy, and it's a very satisfying experience.
Can you describe your career pathway?
Yeah, well, no, definitely. That's a good question. I started in well, I was in communication studies. Went to Southwest Minnesota State in Marshall, and I got a degree in communication studies, both for broadcasting, digital media, video, and public relations. But started on the communications route, and originally was thinking radio. Actually, that was kind of my first leaning. But then through actually kind of job shadow opportunities, I was able to kind of experience it more in radio. Decided that wasn't maybe my first choice, and then I took an editing course my sophomore year of college, and I did the editing course, fell in love with it, got addicted to it, if you will, and then made that my path. And got after I graduated, I had a senior project I did at with Pioneer here actually in Granite, and met Patrick Moore, the communications there, and he told me about a job opening. So you know who you know, right? In the building. So it was, yeah, that's how I've ended up here now and moving about 3 years here now at Pioneer.
How vital was your educational training for you to get the job that you do today?
Yeah, well, no, definitely. It definitely was important and useful. I mean, the various classes I took exposed me to different facets that you need to know in video production and other techniques. It's a lot of graphic design skills that have to get incorporated into the job, and even just being able to do public speaking and communication studies. That's our field. So. Just being able to be a well-rounded communicator, not only in video and digital media, which is obviously huge right now, but just well-rounded communication in general. So I think that helped me. But honestly, I think for anybody that's interested in doing video production or a creative digital media platform, is just repetition. I did a lot of videos, of course, for school, but there were a lot of videos that I would do just for pure fun, for enjoyment, and even just other opportunities. And especially in these type of fields, there's so much that you need to know and learn, and you got to be able to make some mistakes along the way. So the more that you do in accumulating that, the better perfected you'll be with video production and other fields.
What does an average day look like for you and your work?
Yeah, well, that's generally it seems usually there's two extremes with video. Either we're out shooting or back here editing, but more specifically, generally, if we're going out on a shoot, and I work on Prairie Sportsman mainly, our outdoor recreation program, and we go all over the state, where some of our shows stay more closer to home. We will occasionally stay closer to home too to film, but generally if we're out filming, pretty much we're going out and we're going to our location or locations to film, and basically you'll spend the day getting your interviews, getting as much footage as you can. And then when you're done filming at the end of the day, a lot of times there's a lot of footage that you've collected. Well, then we have to go in to the hotel room, usually if we're staying there, and we like to say dump our footage. So then we copy all the files onto a backup hard drive. So we make sure we have them when we come back to the station. And then if we're here at the station like I am today, it's mainly editing and those sorts of tasks. So then I'm taking the footage that I've captured in the field, and I'm taking scripts that were given to me, and then I'm adapting the script into the video and taking the various video files, audio files, and starting to piece together the story right here from the edit booth.
Awesome. What type of challenges have you encountered at your work?
Well, yeah, video production, it really teaches you good problem solving skills. I mean, I'm a little biased, but sometimes you'll find that you don't have the footage maybe you're looking for, or something, a piece of footage or an important clip you filmed outside got blurry and you can't use it. Well, you got to be a creative problem solver. And in the moment where you could panic and like, oh, it stinks we don't have this. Well, sometimes I've been able to come up with creative solutions then to work around that in the scripts. You can still tell the story the way you want to. So that might be a special editing trick maybe I've come up with, or putting in a certain graphic or something. Just different workarounds like that to continue to make sure it fits for the story, and hopefully the viewer won't notice. And that's when it's really successful, is when people don't even notice that it was an accident.
What part of your work motivates you the most?
Yeah, well, I would definitely say the fact that just the creativity and how it's a different project every time. Especially like I just did one of my favorites that I've edited from this year was we went up to the Gunflint Trail in the Arrowhead region, and we did an ice fishing trip, and it was brutally cold. Cool area. It was really neat to be up there, but just the winds were howling, and we were doing an ice fishing piece. And as much as at the moment, I mean, it was a ton of fun, of course, but at the same time, it was really cold. You're like, oh, I wish we had a milder day. But we got some awesome footage, and then weeks later, when I was finally editing it, the satisfaction to then be able to take the viewer, basically it's like we're going outdoors, and we're allowing the viewer to vicariously live and experience this moment. And I think the motivation is, how can I, in the most unique way and breathtaking way, capture the intensity? So I get the shots of the wind blowing the flaps of the ice house, and the wind howling and the snow across the lake, and just being able to take viewers into that experience really keeps me motivated. And it's just always different too. So appreciate that.
How do you stay engaged at work?
Yeah, well, I think besides doing just the variety of projects we do, Kathy, one thing that we also try to do, or especially what you want to do in any kind of digital creative field, I would argue, especially video, is constant learning and education. So we are nearing the end of the editing season here, so still got some edits to do, but then we'll go out into the filming season, but it's also a good time to do some like self-education, if you will. So kind of I like to do a lot of courses on like special effects software. I've got a course I've been working through, and it allows you to pick up some new techniques and just better work the software. So when you get back into more heavy editing, you'll be able to incorporate new techniques, new effects, which just enhances the viewer product and your own skill set as well.
If you had the opportunity to start over at the beginning of your career, what would you do differently?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm relatively early on in the career, but I think, if I could go further back in time, I think I wish I had discovered video even sooner than just sophomore year in college too. If I in high school got into it, because it's just the more that you do it, and for those that, are watching that you're like, oh, I'd like to do a video, do a YouTube channel. I mean, never a greater time. You can do it. The tools are out there for everybody. But just that repetition, because the more I'm doing this, it's like every year I'm getting better, and I'm always analyzing how can I make this better. So that repetition is really good.
So some questions about your company.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
how about what's the turnover rate at your company?
Well, if I had to guess, it's relatively low. I think, there's certain positions maybe where people come and go, kind of your entry level, and if you don't work your way in there maybe too, or move on to a larger market. But I would say relatively low. I know that the sheet here in advance too is thinking about a number, but it'd be on the lower end, I would say. I think there's a lot of long time staff here, which is a good thing too, good continuity.
Yeah. Are there a lot of training opportunities available through your company?
Yeah, I mean it's a great. We go to different conferences sometimes. We've gone to various trade shows, and various staff go to the bigger PBS meetings, and I've gotten to go to a few of the smaller ones. But yeah, we have the opportunity there to like kind of keep up on the latest tech, and we try to do some training sessions here and there, bring in an expert, if you will, to try to perfect our skills too, and just and just having the ability to do some self-learning, like I said earlier, with like the tutorials and stuff, which you might not always, not some places you just might not have the time or depending on the structure of it, but we're able to reinvest some time into perfecting our skill set, which is key.
How does your company compare to others in the same industry?
Well, it's very unique, Pioneer PBS, in that we are, I mean, we're a smaller station compared to most, but we are a fairly large media production outlet in rural greater Minnesota, which is pretty unusual. There's and I didn't know this till I got working here, but there's like 330 some PBS stations across the country. We're one of the 330, and we are in the second smallest community of any of the stations. So most of them are in large cities, of course, and even just large hub towns. So we are very unique to be out here. And then obviously, well, and then for those of you who don't know too, we've got a brand new building. It's just like 3rd-year-old. The Fagans were extremely generous, Ron and Diane, to donate. So I mean, it's very state of the art too. So we're doing better than even larger stations as well. So that's unique about us. And I think what's unique too is we're really the only large media presence that's covering and content out in our neck of the woods, because there's no news arm out in most of our area, even doing news or long form reporting. And obviously the Twin Cities, news, they'll occasionally come out here, and if they're lucky in the weather, they'll highlight our town maybe for a minute right before going back to the ring. So it's unique in that we're able to tell stories for this region that no one else is able to do quite at our scale.
How would somebody learn about available jobs with your company?
Yeah, well, we utilize a lot of the major job posting platforms. So we use Indeed and a few others that that we use that I guess I'm not too familiar with, but I know HR uses them as well in addition to Indeed. I know we also post on our website as well, so we've got a job openings there as well. So feel free to check that out too, because we do have occasionally get openings for different positions, and then social media too. We try to use social media as well to put out. So we try to spread it out to as many channels as we can to try to reach as many people and reach them in different locations. Yeah.
What is the typical salary range for positions at this company?
Well, it's a good question. So public television, it's not a super lucrative big money job, but it pays the bills and stuff too. So that is one difference if you were to maybe go into your own private operation, or if you were to go to a larger, say, a company as a position, or even maybe a media production out in the cities. And we're definitely going to make not as much. I had to give a range, and it's I'd say anywhere like the 30, average from anywhere between 30 and 40 probably thousand a year if I had to guess. Obviously various factors in different spots, but around there. So I mean, it's not, certainly not bad. I mean, it's maybe lower than a lot of places too, but it's cost of living out here. What I've come to appreciate, Kathy, as a fresh, a newly minted adult, as I like to say, being a homeowner and everything, is cost of living is very cheap out here, as you know as well, living out here. So obviously, if you want to go to the cities, if students want, I mean, more power to you. But there's a lot of perks to being out here, including that cheap cost of living.
Yes. What qualifications are necessary to obtain work in this career?
Yeah, definitely. Well, experience is good, and I know obviously a lot of times degrees are good. I mean, I've got a 4-year degree, but one of my coworkers has a 2-year degree that's just in video. So I would say at the minimum, like tech school equivalent or a 2-year kind of associate's degree in video is ideal, and then even 4-year is great as well. And then on top of that, just as much experience as you can. Your experiences, if you got a demo reel as well. My internship, actually, I interned in the Twin Cities at the I hadn't heard of this actually until I worked there. I don't know, Kathy, if you've heard of the National Sports Center in Blaine. I don't know if you're familiar. Yeah, I didn't either, but it's actually the largest amateur sports facility. They have 54 fields up in Blaine, and they host a bunch of tournaments too. So it's a big kind of economic draw for the region. So I interned there as a video production assistant to help the main video guy. But at the internship, losing my train of thought here. Yikes! What was your question that we had on here?
Qualifications.
Yeah, thank you. Qualifications, exactly. Yep. So, as far as that goes, there was one guy I was told, not my boss at the time, but one of the staff there was not originally in video production, but he just wanted to get into it, and he was so good at it that he got hired. I don't think he had a video degree, and then he built up experience at the sports center when he was their main video guy, and then at least last when I had left there, he had gotten a job at Target actually in their marketing department too. So it's a weird deal where obviously, I mean, a degree is great, and I certainly wouldn't discourage it by any means too. But in addition to that, and or if you can just bank up good experience and have a good demo reel of footage to show someone, because obviously video very visual medium, and if you can impress people, that can do it for you too.
What characteristics are essential to becoming successful in this job?
Hmm. Well, I think being able to adapt, as much of a cliche as that is, but especially like in my work of outdoor TV, the weather will play a lot of factors on you. Your ability to move to different locations in any kind of filming. I mean, filming is fun and it's so enjoyable, but there is still plenty of work in it, and that you gotta do all the setup in advance to do the filming and set up different angles and stuff too. So being able to be flexible and willing to like move quickly and stuff too, and capture footage in a limited time in a creative way, and then even being able to effectively organize your thoughts too in editing. Sometimes I have a producer and she does a lot of the scripting, but occasionally, and the neat thing about it, pioneers, we get to wear many hats. So sometimes I do a scripting of maybe a shorter piece. And so as much as, and I mean, I can't speak for every, student that watches this too. Some may enjoy writing those research reports. I'm not saying I was enthused about them, but I definitely could. But, honestly, the stressing, at least that I got, I'm from Morris, so not too far away. I went to high school there. Uh, but being able to organize your thoughts, like even a research paper where you have your intro, your body points and conclusion, even though I'm not writing papers, the concept of effectively organizing your thoughts and ideas go into video as well. So having good organizational skills, and then good storytelling skills too. How do you, tell a story as well, kind of goes along with that. And yeah, and just, I guess, being open to creativity and yeah, just constantly exploring new ideas, how to make something different and improve, you could say.
What is the typical pathway to entering the career?
Yeah, well, I think for a lot of people, it might not be getting on directly in the main job. I was very fortunate, although actually when I was hired, I was like an assistant to the main video editor, and then he moved on to somewhere else, so that I moved up into my current role, kind of as the lead videographer editor. So a lot of cases, again, depending on the size of the operation, you may be in a team of multiple people doing video and other digital media, and you might not be the lead person. So, but it's a good way to get your foot in the door. So the pros and cons, you have your foot in the door, but at the same time, you may not have complete creative control. You might be under someone else's direction. And that can be tough sometimes when you're used to editing your own work and kind of having complete control, having to yield that to someone else who's telling you, well, let's do like this, or I know so we're documentary mainly, nonfiction here at Pioneer, but then if you were to get into like, I know at a Hollywood level, if you're at a film company doing more narrative films, TV shows, movies, a lot of times if you're editing or a cameraman, you're an assistant. So like the editor, you're just cleaning up the interview. You're really not necessarily, you're just labeling clips like, oh, this explosion in take 2 was really good. I'd use this and not take 1. Well, the main editor comes in, then he gets to piece it together. You're just kind of doing the work. But again, foot in the door. So a lot of times it's probably assistants. You might be able to get, a main video job too. And then at that point, just building on that experience.
So how important are grades like in college and in high school when first getting your job?
Yeah, well, it's a good question, and how do I phrase it too? Especially if senioritis may be kicking in for some viewers. I don't know that happened to you. Well, it might happen to me a little bit, but I think, I mean, I was fortunate to get good grades, and grades are certainly important. As far as ultimately, though, I think if you can show that you can do the job ultimately, and even, you know, in a video project for a grade 2, even if you're not getting an A, you know, B, C, the biggest thing is, besides, I mean, definitely don't want to flunk it out. You definitely want to make your most effort in it, but it's, you know, it's more so, it's not so much grades, but can you learn and can you improve and deliver the product of that too. So if you can do that and constantly improve and learn as you go in the field, even in the educational sense, then I think you'll be doing just fine as well. So
So with the future outlooks, how do you anticipate job demand for the future in your industry?
well, yes, it's very good, good job outlook as we've become more internet and digital savvy focused, and everybody wants video, and video is much broader and cheaper and available to get into now, which is fantastic. So there's so many opportunities to, you know, I'm at maybe a traditional, you know, TV station, but or and besides that, or like a production company for movies and commercials. I mean, you could be doing video for an organization, you could be doing video for a company, you could be doing freelance, you know, weddings and just promotional videos for various, you know, businesses and stuff. There's just so many avenues that are opening up, and every business wants video because it's just such an effective way. I mean, everyone's Facebook news feed, it's you go through, it's mainly video now, and everyone's trying to fight. So there's much more opportunities, and more people are able to do it. So it's wonderful. I think it's a safe career bet for sure.
So you would say, how fast is the industry growing?
Well, yeah, mean, I don't know if I could necessarily give you a percentage, but as it greatly has increased that you see video being implemented into social media, I know it's gained, oh, I wanted to last read, maybe 30%. So, I mean, the numbers are going up. I've looked at the various charts and graphs, and because the video consumption for users online is just going up so much exponentially here, and so naturally Facebook too, because even when we post videos and stuff too, you know, Facebook wants you to pay to boost them now, and the organic reach, despite good numbers in the past, you know, there's more competition out there too, which is definitely not a bad thing. But to get those views that you want to get now, you know, you're competing with more people, so there's plenty plenty of growth out there for sure.
What type of career change do you expect in the future?
Well, I think I will become a doctor. No, I'm just kidding. No, I don't have that expertise. No, but well, you know, if anything, I mean, I really like what I'm doing here as well too. But I think maybe down the line, I could see myself expanding to maybe more broader marketing. You know, not only doing just video, but maybe being in a company and doing various marketing work that's not just video, of course, but just other avenues as well. You know, maybe communicating and doing trade shows and stuff. So I'm certainly happy with where I'm at now, and I'd like to keep doing video, but I'm open to more other roles I could see myself maybe morphing into, like maybe if it's with a company where you're doing marketing, which includes video, of course, and sort of that sort of thing for me.
Okay. What other resources would you recommend to learn more about this career?
Yes, well, I mean, again, there's a lot of good resources out there. I mean, YouTube is just filled with tutorials, and even all the time I'm going to YouTube. Oh, how do I do this effect? And it's really saved my editor quite a bit. So there's a lot of free education out there, like on YouTube. Again, great resource. But if you want a little more polished in that too, like I'm using, and there's a lot of like lynda.com, I think LinkedIn Bottom, they are popular, more formalized courses where you can get a nice laid out tutorial on how to use software and techniques. And then I have a Udemy, it starts with a U. They've got courses that are like 10, $20, and I've got one for After Effects, which is like our special effects software. So once this editing season wraps up, I'm going to be getting back into that a little bit here too, to brush up on that. So that's a good resource too. You can get courses fairly cheap to kind of learn the software. And but really, I mean, YouTube, it's just unreal watching there, and especially for video. I mean, anytime watching a doc now on Netflix too, try to be a little mindful. And still, you get lost in the show, which is great. But you know, I try to analyze too, like, oh, so they're doing this effect, or oh, they're doing all these photos like this. I should try doing that too, and you know, get inspired too. You know, other people's work helps you out as well.
Yeah. Anything else you'd like to share? Or
Well, yeah, that's a good question, Kathy. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I think, yeah, I think there's just no better time for doing obviously video, if you want to do audio and podcasting, and even photography, graphic design. I mean, the availability of computers and just the resources of online like YouTube and the cheapness of cameras. It's just really great. So if anyone's got the itch, whether you want to do it as a career or just as a side hobby, I just say go for it as well. After I took that editing course, I didn't have a good computer yet to edit on. I didn't have really a good camera at the time, but I took my cell phone and borrowed a friend's GoPro, and I made a music video for my grocery store actually one summer, and it went locally viral. That's 8,000 views, which is not really big for pretty much any video now, but locally it was pretty big. Got a newspaper article. And the point is not to make a shameless plug for it, but more so that the ability, the tools that we have now. I didn't have a production studio or anything, but I did a web-based editor. But I guess my other advice too for those that are looking at digital creative media, video, audio, and that I would recommend Apple computers. I think you can still do Windows machines do it quite well now too. And there's obviously people got their opinions made on Windows or Mac, but I used to be Windows for a long time, and then when I got into this, really enjoy Mac. I'm talking right now on a new iMac Pro, but if you can get a MacBook Pro laptop, I think they're still the industry standard. I mean, Windows has come a long way, but I think you can't go wrong with that. And you don't have to pay the new, because I would never, unless I win the lottery, pay for a brand new Mac. It's just not worth it. They're great machines, and they've done a good job. Steve did a good job with them, but you can get refurbished. Like I bought a refurbished Mac mid 2012, 3 years ago, and it still is working great, running the software fine. And so they're good machines. So you can look that way as well. And then I guess the Adobe Creative Cloud is the software we're using for our editing purposes. So Adobe Premiere Pro, After Effects, Photoshop. So that's, again, for those looking into it, if your school has it, definitely learn those. They seem to be kind of the top industry standard as well. But you can get, Photoshop knockoffs. I have a Photoshop knockoff and a Final Cut Pro, which is Apple's editing software. And those ones you pay and you own them. That's the drawback of Premiere, is it's a subscription. So depending on your budget, it may not be feasible, but they do have a student discount. So for those of you students, you take advantage of using those student emails and get those discounts while you can, because I wish I could have that student discount a little longer.
awesome. Well, thank you. This was very awesome, and I know that students will love it. It was very interesting. You had a cool job.
Well, thank you, Kathy. Yeah, I have to pinch myself every so often too, but yeah, but yeah, thanks again for having me too, and I hope this helps out for everyone too, and yeah, we're back out and about. Get the camera.
Yeah. Well, thank you. It was very cool. I appreciate it. Everybody will.
Absolutely. Well, thanks again, Kathy.
Yeah. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Hey, thanks, you too. We'll see you.
Thanks a lot. Bye.